All right. Hey, everyone. Mark here. Welcome to another Greenbridge Investing Market Analysis. In this session, I'm going to be talking about, well, the first thing I'm going to talk about is this OmiseGO situation, which is ridiculous. But many of you, since you're members of our chat room, you pretty much know how we handle these things. But I point this out because I want others who maybe come across this video on YouTube and stuff like that, I want to shed some light or provide some perspective on a situation like this, because it's very easy to get caught up in the herd mentality. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about what levels and what kind of price formations we can anticipate for a realistic buying opportunity. Okay, so with that being said, I'm also going to be covering Bitcoin, the major markets, a couple of trades that we're in, so you guys can get an idea of what's going on there. If you have a stock that you'd like to see, please share it in the channel now, so that when I'm done with my part, I can go over your part. All right, so with that being said, it's for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult the licensed investment advisor. Now, straight into OmiseGO. Look at this thing. Now, keep in mind, with these type of altcoins, they pretty much hype drives these things, okay? I mean, as you could see, up until just a couple of days ago, this thing started to go, right? And back here, this was back on Sunday, we had this initial leg back here, okay? Today is Friday. So pretty much the whole week, it had not done much. And then here we go, right? So I actually wrote a report on TradingView on Sunday, and I pointed to this level right here, okay? And I said, this is where the herd mentality jumps into the market, and the smart money waits over here around these low twos. Well, I was wrong, and this thing went vertical. So, hey, but at least I didn't short it, right? No one knows how these things are going to go. But the point is this. After the fact, these always look amazing. This is basically a lottery ticket. After the fact, like, oh, man, if I had just bought it here, I could have made this and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. All right, these situations are rare. Now, we've been seeing quite a few of these in these altcoins, like others that recently come to mind, Link, USD, which, Link got hammered a little bit. And here, let me just a quick comparison, okay? There's Link, and same situation, right? Everyone was going nuts. Everyone's saying this thing's going. I saw a video where someone was saying that this thing's going to 1,000. All right, basically that when this thing was at $5, the guy was saying, oh yeah, and he gave all these fundamental stories and blah, blah, blah. Well, hasn't gone to 1,000 yet, but if you bought this thing at the highs, now you're taking some pain. And this bearish candle is definitely not in your favor right now. I put out a report a couple of weeks ago when this thing was pushing the highs, and I said 18 was a tough spot. Watch out, that's a significant selling area, okay? It was a projection area and potential resistance. Well, it went a little further, it went to 20, and now here we are. What's today's low? 1344, right? So that's the herd mentality. And OmiseGO is no different. OMG, USD. Actually, no, that's not the one I want to see. Hold on, I have an OmiseGO chart. Hold on, let me get my OmiseGO chart here. So again, the thing is, you don't want to get caught in that. It's the herd mentality over and over. The herd mentality is what drives all asset prices, whether it's a stock, whether it's an altcoin, whether it's an option, whatever it is. Right? The herd mentality is behind it, and that is what this is. So my point here about this is don't get caught up in this. Do not chase something like this. It's not going to 20 anytime soon. That's unrealistic. I mean, it can, but it's unrealistic to think something like that. Okay, we want to be realistic. So where can this thing go realistically? Well, that's where we turn to Elliott Wave. All right, now I don't know how many of you are familiar with Elliott Wave, but it's a forecasting method. It's a professional forecasting method that has been used for a very, very long time. Okay, almost 100 years, and it works. But you have to understand what its limitations are. So let's take a look at this thing in terms of Elliott Wave and see what we could make out in terms of what we can expect over the next couple of weeks. Now, I'm going to start counting waves here real quick. So going back to V low, the March low, we can call this right here a wave 1, okay? This leg of here, all the way to this high here, which is 226, right? 2.25. That's your wave 1 right there. Now, wave 2, which are typically, corrective waves, they can also be triangles or consolidations, which is what we got here. This consolidation went on for 3 months of pretty much nothing. That's your wave 2. Now, when wave 3 comes along, wave 3 is typically your largest and most aggressive wave, and that's a wave 3. Very typical of a wave 3. And in that wave 3, we should be able to count 5 waves, right? And I can count them. We got 1, we got this little 2 over here, 3, we got this little pullback 4, which you can't see on this time frame, and this is a 5, which is very typical when you see these pin bar type of situations. When you can count 5 waves or 5 subwaves, that's usually a sign that the party is over. So this is definitely not something to be buying right now, okay, just based on that. So what about what we can expect next? Well, after we have waves 1, 2, and 3, we're expecting a wave 4, okay, a broader magnitude wave 4, the same magnitude that we've counted this 1, 2, 3 on. Wave 4 can take us back to here. Now, it's not going to happen most likely in a simple, like a nice little simple pullback. We're halfway there, by the way, on this pin bar. But this $6 area is the proportional support. Now, I would anticipate a wave 4 to consolidate, all right? It's kind of like wave 2, right? But we'll probably have a very sharp and noisy consolidation inside this area, somewhere between 6 and 5, maybe the low 5s, something along those lines. And that consolidation can unfold over a couple of weeks. I mean, look at this consolidation on wave 2. That's June to July. It's 1 month. July to August. That's 2 months, pretty much, right? I said 3 months earlier. Basically 2 months or 2.5 months of consolidation. That's 8 weeks. All right? I'm looking at maybe 2 to 3 weeks on this thing. But again, there's no way you could know how much time it will consolidate for. The key is not to get caught up in the noise. Wave 4s are notorious for false starts. So a lot of people see some sort of buy signal. Maybe they're watching a smaller time frame and they see, some kind of buy signal in there. They buy it and then it goes lower. And they're like, oh, this thing sucks. All right? Just like Jumia, just like Link, it's all the same. So I would let this thing find stability around this level. If it can't find it around here, you're looking at lower prices. You're looking at probably the 3.5 area, all right? Or maybe even the low 3s. That's the second area where it could possibly consolidate. This old resistance is likely to become a new support. That would be a more extreme case. So the first case would be around here. We have no consolidation yet. All we have is this pin bar, so we have to see how this unfolds. The point is, do not get caught up in this thing now. Let this thing cool off, okay? We'll find a new support that price establishes. We can then measure our risk realistically from such a support, and that is when a swing trade idea makes sense, okay? It's all planning. It's all about a process. If you are the reactive type of trader, because some news comes out, right? And there's a lot of stimulus for this. Oh, some news, this. Oh, I better jump on that before I miss out, blah, blah, blah. If you're that type of trader, you cannot win. You will win randomly, which doesn't really work in the long run, as many of you may know or will find out. All right, so that's OmiseGO, OMG. Just want to point those things out before everyone gets all crazy and excited and you see all the hype, which is going to be on YouTube and everywhere else, about people making 1,000% overnight in this thing and all that other nonsense. Don't be lured by that. Have a plan. I just gave you some idea there of what to anticipate. Try to plan around that, okay? All right, so again, if you're new to the Greenbridge YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel here, okay, so that every time I do one of these videos, you get an email notification from YouTube. Also, like the video if you like it, so you let me know that I'm doing a good job. All right, and also, if you haven't heard of Greenbridge, check out our website at greenbridgeinvesting.com. we have a chat room. We also have a swing trade signal service where we send out a text and an email for our trade ideas. And we also have portfolio management ideas where we carry stuff for the long term as well. So it's not day trading. It's more of a longer time frame type of trade. You don't have to be chained to your computer all day and all that type of stuff. It's a lot less stressful. And we provide a lot of not only a perspective, but also a lot of educational ideas. We've helped our members out a lot become much more confident traders. All right, so also, if you have a stock you'd like to see, or any other market, it could be an altcoin, it could be a currency, whatever it is, put it in the channel now. So once I'm finished with this, I can check out a chart that you want to see. All right, and we'll see what's going on there. All right, so, and thanks, Shajin, thanks, SXP. I will take a look at that once I finish this up. So, so that's OMG. Now, let's take a look at Bitcoin real quick. And here's why. We sent out a swing trade idea yesterday, speaking of swing trade signals, and the trigger was at 11,950. Now that's way up here. Thing never activated. It was never filled, right? So we had the inside bar to go long. We sent out the idea. We purposely put that buy order higher than the market, much higher. Why? To avoid this. That's why. Because I know these things are noisy and we're still in this resistance zone, which I am not crazy about. So to help filter out the noise in the trade and to make the market work harder, put the order above the candle, way above the candle, so this thing has to work. Never tapped the order, we are not in, okay? That's much more effective than seeing the inside bar and just buying it. Like, oh yeah, that's good enough, I'll just buy it. Now you're stuck in this thing. Okay, if you do something like that. And that's how a lot of people trade. Oh, that's good enough, and they just buy it. We have very strict rules that the market must meet. And we try to take ourselves out of the equation as much as possible. Now, we're messing with the low. We took out the low of this inside bar, all right, which is the 11,675. That's not a good sign for this thing as far as, you know, bulls who are caught from the 12,300 level are concerned. This is a continuation of bearish momentum. Now, the whole idea behind that inside bar is I thought maybe that we were not going to get any bearish follow through. And that often begins with a green candle. But it reversed again. So the bearish momentum is there. Okay, no problem. Well, we never had a long to begin with. Our trade never activated to begin with. So what's next? If this thing clears 11,500, that's right now the support that's in play. I'd be looking for 11,000. If 11,000 is cleared, you're looking at 10.5 because that's the key support. That is the main support that's in play in recent time. All right, the old 10,500 resistance is now the key inflection point, and that is our ideal location for a new swing trade long. That's where I'd be very happy to call the trade idea. Not up at these levels. Although if I see a signal, I'll just compensate for all this elevated risk. But so far, we let this thing pull back and do what it has to do. Now, do not confuse this for a bear market, and this thing has not, the trend has not reversed. A lot of novice traders will look at something like this, they'll look at their 4-hour chart or their 1-hour chart, and they'll say, oh, trend reversal. This is not a trend reversal. This is a change in momentum. We had a failed high, which we talked about. All the longs get caught, now they're gonna bang it out. The broader structure is bullish. There's no question it's bullish. In order for this broader structure to be considered changing, it's got to take out this support way over here. That's a long way to go, okay? What level is that? That's 88.30. So we have a lot of bullish room here. So we just look for the bullish reversal and we look to go back long again, all right? So we'll see how that goes. It really helps if you have an inflection point in advance, and that is our inflection point. The 10,500 area. If we get something sooner, we'll be open to it, but we'll adjust for that elevated risk. All right, so that's Bitcoin. Now, let me go over another one real quick. I want to jump into the Forex market and take a look at the dollar Canadian, because this one is a recent swing trade. You could see the trade information right there, sent out earlier in the week. This market, this currency has been very difficult. This is our third swing trade that we've taken in this thing. The other two were stopped out. And you may say, well, why would you keep buying this thing if the trend is bearish? Okay, Ricky, thanks for that question. Oh, on Link. Okay, hold on. Let me just finish this up on the Canadian, and then I'll talk about Link since I was on the altcoins there. So you may wonder, why would we be long the dollar Canadian when you would say, oh, the trend is bearish? Because we don't believe that the trend is bearish. We base the trend on this structure back here. As many of you know, because I've showed you this before, this is the structure that's in play. This bearish momentum is just correcting the bullish structure. So if the bullish structure is in play, it's still bullish. And this thing is just developing a higher low. It's been very tedious and a very elongated correction, which can happen. But we reached a level where we can get a failed low. And that's why we were so interested in this currency. I want to call it a coin. Because of the location, right? The probability of this location. Now, we are going against the fundamentals, and that's the price action that we're seeing here. It's been a pain. The US dollar has been weak, but as you could see, we had some changes this week, right? We had the FOMC minutes on Wednesday, which had a little reaction there in the market. Nasdaq sold off, gave back what, about 300 points in about 5 minutes. And the dollar popped. That was this green candle here on the Canadian, which got us long again. Now, since then, it's just been kind of fooling around. And you have to keep something in mind when it comes to these type of turning points. Again, this is a very aggressive trade because it is against the momentum. But if the trade works out, it's got a lot of potential. And the dollar can easily bounce. We don't even need this thing to go back up to 37. Right, I have a target up in the 36 area, and that's kind of an extreme target. I'd be happy in the 35s, and if it turns there, we'll just get out of the whole thing in the 35s. I just put that third target in case we get a nice run there. The point is, it's got a lot of potential, and a bottom or a top takes time to play out. It's not usually a single candle. Now you get these occasions where you get like a couple of candles, and then it pops, right? Something like this. And obviously we don't have that here, but usually the bottoming or peaking is a process. And that process begins by pushing lows, but not dramatically. This low is not dramatically lower than this low, right? What's this low here? 33.15. This low here is 32.33. That's based on the magnitude of this chart, that's not a huge differential. Now, this new low at 31.33, I mean, it's lower, yes, and it's a lot lower than this one here, but it's not dramatically lower than this low. What's a dramatic change is, you go from a low like here, what is this, 38.67 to a low of 33.15. That's a dramatic low. This is not. So this thing is trying to bottom. The US dollar is trying to find strength. We'll see if it comes back, and we have our targets in place. I just want to point it out that you have to be patient with this pair. This pair in particular is a pain. And I said to everyone, if we get stopped out again of this thing, we get stopped out one more time, I'm going to leave this pair alone, and we'll look at the dollar franc or something like that, to play the dollar long. Either that or, we'll have to short the euro or something. But if this thing, this thing has a long way to go before it cancels out this bearish momentum, and we will probably have other opportunities with, the euro and the pound anyway. So we'll see how this goes. Any questions, please let me know. Now, before I get to your questions here in the chat, and by the way, if you have a stock you'd like to see or some other market, please put it in the chat and I will get to it. I just want to take a look at gold, and then I'm going to take a look at one stock that we mentioned today. Actually, two stocks, and then I'm going to get to your stuff. So take a look at gold, right? Similar situation. Now, gold, of course, is going to react to a strengthening dollar. Now, look what gold has been doing. This first leg higher sucks in all these longs that think that they're getting a great price, and then they get caught in this. Just like, that OmiseGO GO chart, if we look at this in terms of the most recent structure in Elliott Wave, we can count the waves, right? 1, consolidation 2, this elongated wave 3, and this is a consolidating wave 4, right? So again, this can gyrate for a little while, and if we can get a double bottom situation or even a failed low, we'd be all about going long gold again. But right now, it's in the middle of this range, and it's a really bad spot to be taking a swing trade in gold. Right? So just something to keep in mind there. We are getting a consolidation. We just have to wait for the right location within that consolidation. But definitely, we're still bullish on gold. Okay, the fundamentals have not changed yet. All right, so now one more. Let me show you this, and then we'll move on here to your stuff. So I want to show you Harpoon Therapeutics. Take a look at that. Now, this thing, and thanks DJ for pointing this out earlier in the chat room. This was a trade of the week that we shared a few weeks ago. All right, at a buy limit of 1150, and this thing was as low as what? Let's see. This thing went as low as 1139. Okay, the stop loss was 10. So we sent this out. I believe we sent it out. I don't remember the exact date, but we sent this out a few weeks ago, and obviously it filled. Okay, because it went through the buy limit, which was below the market at the time. It might have been after this pin bar. Let me see. What are these prices here? 12.35, 12. Yeah. So I believe we sent that buy limit when this thing was basically popping over here, and wanted to see if we can get filled on that noise. Oh, yeah. And eventually, but it took some time to fill. I believe that I sent out that trade here on August 3rd, when this thing was fooling around 12.35. Hoping for price noise. We eventually got the price noise, but it took like 2 weeks. Okay, look at that. It took 2 weeks. And eventually that thing filled. And look at this thing. Target 1 was at 1350. Target 2 was at 1650. This thing went to 2 targets in 1 day. Obviously on some news or something. I don't even know what the news is. But that's why, again, a great example of how patience pays. It's very hard to sit through something like that, but you just, as long as it's not going to the stop, as long as you have your stop in place, your risk is defined, and that's it. You just let it do its thing, okay? Now, we've had a number of other stocks get stopped out in the same type of situation, but, you catch one of these, it's nice. Anyway, and that reward risk, this was a very attractive reward risk. That's why I think it was even on our radar to begin with. All right, so I wanted to mention that. And one more stock I want to get into before I jump over to these altcoins is I want to talk about Shopify. Okay, now this one, we just sent this one out earlier today. Now it's unusual, right? And make sure you read the email on this. This is an unusual position for us because we don't short stocks outright, but we called this one a short. Why? Well, look at this, and this is what I saw. I'm like, wow, I got to give this a try. First of all, you have a head and shoulders pattern. Okay. You have a bearish candle today off of a significant resistance around this 1074. All right. Now, some people may say, well, but aren't you crazy for shorting stocks in a strong market? Well, the Nasdaq was pushing all-time highs today, and this thing is giving us a head and shoulders pattern. That's relative weakness. Okay. And that's why this is a great short candidate. And you may say, well, this is an expensive stock. You don't have to short a lot of shares. You could short 10 shares, 15 shares. This thing pulls back a couple of 100 points. That's a pretty decent, profit. It's not too bad, right? Considering you don't have to take a lot of risk based on this structure. Now, can this thing have some kind of crazy news and gap higher? Sure, anything's possible. But what I'm attracted to about this position is the relative weakness. Right? The Nasdaq pushing all-time highs, and this thing is just not even thinking about it. So if the Nasdaq pulls back, when we get that retrace in the stock market, this thing is in an ideal position to test a low like 883, right? In the 880, that's 200 points from here. So, even on a couple of shares, that's not too bad. So I just want to point that out. Normally, we don't short stocks outright. Normally, we will try to sell calls on something like this, or if it's a stock, usually we'll buy options because we want to avoid the gap risk, which, this thing can do. But it's like we had to give this one a try because the setup was so crystal clear. All right, so I wanted to mention that. Now, And let me go over the Speaking of the Nasdaq, let's take a look at this Nasdaq, because again, this thing is just in ridiculous mode, right? Now, I'm not only going to spend 2 minutes on this, and then I'm going to get to your questions. And I appreciate all your questions, everyone. So we had on Wednesday, we had this bearish inside bar. And this also appeared on the S&P, and that was a result of the FOMC minutes, FOMC meeting minutes, right? The following day, we took out that low, which is a sell signal in a failed high location. Like, okay, maybe this is the beginning of the retrace. And then we get an outside bar, followed by new highs today. This is, you have to keep something in mind. This is just a handful of stocks driving this thing. This is like Tesla and Apple driving this thing. And two stocks don't represent the entire market. So when you look at the S&P in comparison, which is a collection of 500 stocks, right? Now, yeah, sure, you have similar price action. Okay, cool. But the red flag that I keep pointing out, and I'm just waiting for this thing to take effect, is this. And I know if you guys follow me on Twitter and stuff, you guys probably seen this chart. I keep pointing this out right here. And this is the CFD, which means the futures are flirting with the number, right? They're trying to push that 339 area, or what is this? The 3395 into that 3400 area. And we do have a higher low. It's trying very hard. But this, even if it pushes it, it goes right into failed high territory, all right, which is a very vulnerable place for stocks. I would just not want to be long stocks here, especially when a stock looks like Shopify. Okay, that stock should be on its highs, not fooling around with a head and shoulders while these markets are on their highs. So that's relative weakness, right? And now also the Nasdaq is like way up here relative to the S&P. So when that pullback comes, and it will likely come out of nowhere, it can be a piece of news. It's not going to be on your chart. Next thing you know, you're going to see a big bearish situation, and it will probably look something like this. Okay, it'll be sharp. So just keep that in mind. It's better to be cautious. And if I'm wrong and we just keep pushing higher and higher and higher, well, you know, I'll get out of the Shopify and take a small loss. What am I going to do? And, you know, we'll get out of some of the shorts that we have on the Qs and stuff. But this is a probability game that we're playing here. Okay, it's not like we're shorting the bottom. All right, so I just want to point that out. Now let's get into your things here. And again, if you have any questions about any of the things I went over, please ask in the chat here. And if you're new to Greenbridge, again, make sure you register for the channel here, subscribe to the channel, and like the video if you like what I'm doing so far. Okay, because it lets me know that I'm doing a good job. Now, so I'll start here with Shejin, SXP. Is that an altcoin or is that a stock? Let's see, because I'm not familiar with it. All right, I guess it's a stock. So what is SXP? Oh, it's on a different exchange. I see. Now, it's interesting, but I'll tell you what. Right off the bat, I don't like that it's in this bearish situation. You have this big lower high over here, followed by a lower low. Not a dramatic lower low. It's trying to find a base, okay, but it needs to spend some time stabilizing. Okay, now you do have this base here, all right, and you do have this break above that, which is a start. It's a starting point. But for me to get more excited as far as long opportunities, I want to see this resistance taken out. So it's got some work to do. Now, as far as taking a trade in something like this, I would imagine you're interested in a long. One thing you can do at this point is wait for the next pullback and see if that pullback produces a higher low, particularly in this area here, the, what is it, $1.20 area. If you can get a higher low there followed by some sort of bullish candle, it's worth a try. But in order to compensate for this lack of broader structure, you can't go in it with very aggressive targets. You're going to have very conservative targets. It makes sense for this type of structure. So if you manage to take a long around that 120 area, you know, and you can get out around 2, right? The high ones, maybe the mid to high ones into the, where is that? Actually 2 is a little too aggressive. So anywhere from like 140 to 180, if you could get out, that's a decent profit. And those are pretty conservative targets. All right, an aggressive target would be beyond 2, thinking, oh yeah, this thing's going to go back to 10. At this point, it's not reasonable, right, because of all this structure. So I would look for the higher low, and then I'd look for that target area. The reward risk would make sense at that point, you know, if you can get that price. But buying this thing right now is really, I don't see any reason to buy it right now. And I'm talking about swing trades. I'm not talking about investing. So those are my thoughts on SXP. Thank you for asking. Ricky, let's see, what do you got here? Sold Link at 19. Oh, nice, nice. Now, so Ricky, where did you get into Link? Where did you get into Link? Actually, why did I? Yeah, I have it on my thing here. That's a nice. Let me see. Let me just pull up a link with my charting stuff on it. Okay. So, bro, it is a swipe coin. Oh, I'm sorry. I just saw. You know, there's like a little delay here. I just went over all that analysis for nothing. Okay, Senjin. Sorry about that. I'm not familiar with it. I'll take a look at that. I'll take a look at swipe coin. Sorry about that. Anyway, well, you guys got a bonus one on SXP, the stock. Sorry. All right, I'll get back to that. Thanks for your patience. Communication line is slow here. It's Friday. All right, so now, Ricky, low 14. Thing is, you have the location that should be attractive is this 1380 area, which it's broken below, okay? And let me see, Ricky, did you tell me where you got into that thing from? No. All right. So it's great that you sold at 19. Did you sell as a result of my analysis? I was just curious about that. But the thing is, low 14s, it's too early. And the reason why I say it's too early is the location is good, but you have no setup. This momentum can go lower at this point with this ugly pin bar. This thing can go lower. So I would wait until this thing stabilizes first. All right, wait for this thing to at least produce some green candle, some sort of failed low formation, something. So I would hold off on that, and it will stabilize. The mistake you don't want to make is you don't want to jump in too early, because this thing can have that you know, where it consolidates, it pops up, gets everyone long, and then it tests the low again, where everyone bangs out. That's the buying opportunity, when everyone's banging out, not that initial buy in a situation like this, because you're competing now with all this bearish momentum. All right, it needs to stabilize. So that's the answer there. All right, now let me go back here to Sheijin. Again, sorry about that. Let's do so XSP. I'm going to guess it's USD. All right, here we go. Swipe. Now, I learned a new thing today. I'm not familiar with swipe. So I see right away. I see Elliott Wave. I see wave 1. I see wave 2 right here. All right, let's see. I see this is definitely wave 3, and this is a wave 4. Typical. We haven't overlapped wave 1 yet, so this is still a wave 4. I can count 3 legs inside of that. 1, 2, 3, or A, B, C, I should say. And that's a good thing as far as this corrective structure, because the corrective structure is likely to run out of steam after such a situation. But here's the thing. Right now is too early to buy. All right? Again, just like Link, you get this ugly bearish candle, and there's no reason to buy. And this is a good example of what I was just warning on Link. You get a green candle like this, right? Like an inside bar, and this can be very misleading. And this can even be, I mean, if I didn't know about this red candle, this could actually be a buy signal if it looked like that, right? You have an inside bar, and you know, followed by an attempt at a green candle here. But this is why you don't buy that initial buy, right? Now, this here is not even the initial buy. It tried to pop, turned red, and then gave you an inside bar. Some stability here, right? And you have a common low at, what is this, 295? And then you get this. So in this type of situation, let's just say you bought it on this higher low, thinking, okay, I bought the pullback. You need to define your risk by this low, and you need to be prepared to get out if it does that. You need to get out and take the loss. Okay, that's just part of the game. And now this thing needs to stabilize again. So if this thing, now that it's pushing this lower low, if it could find support in this area here, which is in the 250 area, and you can get a similar situation to back here, where you get an attempt at a push, an attempt at a reversal, followed by a failure again, then followed by lack of follow through, then that would probably be by your next buy signal, which will look something like that, okay? Something like this, but around that 250 area. And again, you're going to have a common low. You have to be prepared to get out if you're wrong, if it doesn't work. There's no guarantees that a setup will work. That's why we measure risk and we use stops, right? You get out, you're wrong, you wait for the next setup, and you get back in. So that's what I'd say on SXP. Again, thank you for your patience on that one. All right, so let's see what else we got here. Romana, can you talk advice on, okay, so that's Cardano. I know that one. Let's take a look at that one. Is that one against the dollar or, let's see. That's on Bitfinex. Is that one, let me see, I bet you there's a better chart if I look at it against Tether. Let's see. Yeah, okay, I figured Tether would show. Hey, no problem, Shejin. Thanks for the question. Okay, so let's take a look at this Cardano. Well, all right, so now here's the thing. So when I pull up that USD chart, it shows me much more limited price information. USDT should be very similar to the USD. I mean, it should be here. Let me just do a comparison real quick, right? ADA, USD. We're at like 12 cents there, 12 and a half cents. And then if I go to ADA, USDT, it's just going to give us more data to work with. Yeah, it's about the same. It's about the same price. See, what we're interested in here, Romana, what we're interested in is price structure. So it doesn't have to be exactly the USD. The USDT will give us plenty of information to work with. And then you can apply this to the USD chart. Now, nice run off of, man, how low was this thing? This thing was almost worthless, right? It was a penny, almost about 2 cents. And this thing ran to, wow, that's a nice move, right? Okay, it's impressive. Now, here's the thing. So, right now, the first thing I'm looking for are inflection points, right? Inflection point, inflection point, inflection point. Those are the inflection points. And we have a consolidation right here. So it tried to push this high and it failed, right? That's the resistance here at basically 15 cents. Okay? Just like the rest of the market, the other altcoins look similar, right? Swipe looked like this. Bitcoin is pulling back. Okay. 3 cents was the low with some volume. Okay. Now at this point, this is a consolidation in a structure that's clearly bullish, and it's been bullish since that March low. Now I know this thing was much higher in this net, but the structure that's in play right now is this structure since the March low. So at this point, I would be definitely looking for a buying opportunity in this thing. You just need a better setup. Again, this thing could have fooled you, right? This is tricky. You had the inside bar here yesterday. Now it never took out the high of the inside bar, just like Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin had that inside bar situation, never really took out the high, and now we're seeing some selling activity. Okay, no problem. This will lead to your next buying opportunity. So I would be looking for in this region, because you are in a support region, you're at the range low, I would be looking for a new buy signal. So if you can get an inside bar or maybe a green pin bar or something in the next couple of days, that would be a long signal at a decent location. It would be a higher low in a structure that's strong. Your risk will be defined by the low of whatever that formation is, or you can use this low over here, which is what? Basically 11.5 cents, around there. So if it takes that out, it's a good idea to just take your loss. Take the loss and wait for stability and a new long setup. All right, this thing it really has a long way to go before this thing really becomes bearish again. So that's the way I would play that right now. At least, you know, you're not buying the top and you're at a decent location. So just wait for the setup, and you know, you may have something there. We'll keep an eye on this. Now, I'm not a big fan of these penny coins, these sub penny coins or whatever. I'm not a big fan of them, but hey, there's opportunity there. So that's why something like this may not be on my radar, and I'll typically miss something like this because, you know, I'm watching stuff like Bitcoin and whatever, and some of the higher priced ones. But so yeah, just keep that in mind. Now, another fake out that can occur is it takes out this 11.5 cent low and then starts to give you stability. Because what that'll do is that'll lure a lot of longs to bang out thinking that the trend has reversed, and then it fakes out and the trend hasn't really reversed. So I would watch for such a fake out there as well for a possible long opportunity. Okay, something like that. And then if you can manage to get into a trade around that area, I would at least look for a test of the high. That's how you measure, basically you can measure reward risk. You see where your stop is, you measure your potential targets, and that's where you get your ratio from. And it's reasonable to test this high again, which is what, 15.5? That's within reason. And I would expect or anticipate that this thing tries to break out higher because we do have a series of higher lows. And when you have a higher low, often it leads to a higher high. So I would, you know, pushing into the 16s, maybe even 17, it's not that unrealistic. All right, if this thing can have another leg, you're probably going to need a run on Bitcoin too. You know, I would expect the leader to be doing something in that scenario. Although these things, some of these things have been moving on their own without the Bitcoin lead. So hey, you never know. All right, no problem, Romana. So that's how I would look at that one. Thank you for bringing it up. Now, all right, so let's see what else. Henry, for Ethereum, would 425 be a good target for the breakout, or would that be too close to the noise? I have a limit order for 375. All right, let's take a look at Ethereum. So yeah, this is one that's been more on our radar along with Bitcoin because, you know, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, I even put in the chat room, I said, hey, if Bitcoin has the signal, you can transpose that or basically try to use that in these altcoins and try to play the same momentum. Now look at this. So Ethereum had a very similar setup, right? Had the inside bar, just like Bitcoin, never took out the high, and now they're selling, right? The selling action continues. Okay, no problem. Now Henry's question is, would 425 be a good target for the breakout? 425. Now, all right, so 425 is here. Now I'm not sure what you mean by target. Do you mean like a place to get in for the breakout to follow through? Because actually, you can actually get a little bit of a better price than that. Actually, no, you know what? You're right. Because the high here is, yeah, basically 420, basically. So 425 is I can't even talk. It's within reason. I would say I would agree with that. Now you have a limit order in at 375. Today's low is 394. Here's the chance that you're taking. If we have this red candle. If this momentum follows through, it may clear through 375, and you have to ask yourself, what is the next inflection point if that level is cleared? Well, where is 375? Let's put that on the chart here. So 375 is about there, right? It's 375, and that's where your limit order is. That's not a bad place. If you're going to take a chance like that without waiting for a setup, basically putting the limit order in and hoping it gets filled, like I said, the chance you take is the momentum just keeps going and then you get caught in it. But if you're going to do something like that, it's not a bad area because you're right in the middle of that consolidation, which means there are probably going to be other buyers in that area as well. I would anticipate that just based on that. Now, like I said, if there's some dumb news or some catalyst or whatever, it's possible that you get a push lower. It's possible, okay? And if that occurs, if you get that type of follow through, I mean, this is a long way to go for the next inflection point. Now, it doesn't mean it will test this low, which is 250. I think that's unreasonable, but I think it could find a support somewhere in between, like this area, which is in the 330s, 320s, around there. And you can see there was a little bit of price action. There was a little bit of activity right here. So that would be probably your next inflection point if your area is cleared. Just something to keep in mind. I mean, that's where you're going to measure risk from. Doesn't mean you put your stop there. Obviously, you might want to put your stop much tighter, and if it gets stopped out, okay, no problem. Just wait for the next setup or wait for some sort of stability. These levels don't guarantee anything. They're just reference points. Ethereum may find a higher low somewhere around here where it is now. All right, this bearish candle may fake out again, and we may see a pin bar tomorrow, a bullish pin bar, which would be another long signal. Okay, so that's something you have to keep in mind. You always have to be adjusting, always adjusting to the market. Cannot think in absolutes, and you cannot get like married to an opinion. Okay, or you can't be stuck on any kind of idea. You constantly have to adjust. Novice traders have a hard time with that because they want precision and they want things to stay the same, but nothing stays the same. You have to adjust. So that's the story there. And we let the market give us the evidence and then we adjust to it. We don't react to it, we adjust to it. There's a difference. All right, so that's Ethereum. Thank you for asking about that. Yeah, DJ, you know, I understand. We can't be, we can't catch all of them. All right, Shejin, got you there. All right, Henry, any thoughts on UI? All right, let's take a look. Now, I'm assuming that's a stock. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to check in the channel this time so I don't speak for something for about 20 minutes only to realize I talked about the wrong symbol. So is this the right one, UI? I'll talk about it a little bit until I see your response in the channel there. So this thing, right off the bat, I see this, which is a failed high, and it's pulling back off that failed high. All right, now I wouldn't, at this location, I wouldn't be interested in longs at this location. Okay, cool. So I would, in something like this, especially today, you have this lower high developing. I mean, this market closes in about an hour, and you'll have a lower high established. With the position of the Nasdaq, I know the Nasdaq looks like it's going to go higher forever, but that thing is going to turn at some point, and these stocks are starting to act relatively weak. So just like Shopify, I would be looking for this support to break, okay, at 180, at 180 low, and I'd be looking for a better support. Where's the next support on something like this? Well, you got this area right here. You see like it was an old resistance, it kind of broke it, became a support here. I'd be looking at that, what is that, the high 170s? That would at least be a little bit more attractive. But if the Nasdaq really pulls back, you're likely to test this area here, which is much lower. What is this, where you got that double bottom? 165, maybe even push a little lower, like you fail, close this gap, and maybe buying activity returns there. I would be much more attracted at those levels, or much more interested at those levels relative to this level. Now, if I'm wrong, and this thing breaks higher instead, well, what are you going to do? Like, you can try trading that breakout. I'm not a big fan of those type of moves, but it does have potential to take out this high. If this lower high is taken out, 187, it's possible that this thing could push that 195. And in theory, if you do get the higher low, it should at least try for 200. But this is, I think, going to be dependent on the market as a whole. Okay, I don't know how this stock reacts to the broader market, but I can tell you, based on this chart, it recovered just like the market recovered, and it started pushing highs like the market tried to push highs. Now the market has continued to push highs, and this thing has stopped, as many stocks have. So I would just keep those things in mind. So it's either you look for opportunities at those lower levels I just showed, or you try to play this breakout with tight risk management and see if this thing can take out that high if the stock market just continues to run this ridiculous run that it's running. All right, so that's my thoughts on that. Again, when you put these plans together, you have to account for multiple scenarios, right? You can't just have one scenario in mind, and that's why I talk about that. Some people may say, oh, well, you're just saying this, that, whatever, but what's exactly going to happen? I have no idea. The market has to give us information, and then we have to make adjustments. We have to look at the risk. We have to look at the reward. We have to assign a probability to the idea, and that's the best we can do, okay? As long as our risk is carefully defined and we know how much we can lose, I mean, that's really the only control that we have in this game. Now, So thanks for asking. I think I got to everyone's questions here, right? Henry, that was your question about UI. Let's see, do I have anything else? Shajin, okay. Ramana, okay, that we've talked about that one. Okay, sure, no problem. All right, so I think I got everyone's questions. Do I have any other questions? Let's see, how am I doing? How am I doing today with talking too much? Have I been talking too much? Yeah, I've been talking about it's almost too much. So any other questions about any other markets you'd like to see? Anything, anything that I've covered so far, any questions about? By the way, if you're new to the Greenbridge Investing channel, please make sure to register for the channel here. Subscribe to the channel so that you get an email notification from YouTube every time I do one of these. And like the video if you like it, to encourage me, let me know I'm doing the right thing. And if there's something that I could do better, also let me know, because I'm doing this for you and for your experience and to provide perspective for you. I want it to be, a good experience for you. So let me know if there's something I can do better. I'm always open to improvement. All right. Hey, pal, how's it going? So that's pretty much where we are there. If I don't have any more questions, I will wrap this up. The market's going to close in about an hour. We will see how things play out next week based on the position. I'll leave you with this. Based on the position of these stock indices, like the Nasdaq, which is basically being driven by like a couple of stocks, I don't like the vulnerable location. That's why the potential for shorts, I think, is greater in these areas. And that's why we have things like short calls in the Qs. We have positions like whatever in the DAX, or that's why we're interested in those type of things. Pal, okay, since you're a long-time follower, I'll do it for you. Why not? What is it? OMP. Now, what is that? Is that a stock? Is that a stock, or is that a Tesla? Sure. I've been watching Tesla. I've been watching Tesla carefully because I'd like to do something with that. So let's see, OMP. Now, if this is an altcoin, let me know, and I don't want to make that mistake that I made with Shajin earlier. Talked for like 20 minutes on that stock. All right. So I don't like the double top there, but you do have a higher low situation, right? You do have this on. Let me get that back there. You do have this, all right, at $7.14. So higher low. Now you are competing with. All right, so this is one of those mixed situations. You always ask me questions about these, like how do you know the trend has changed, right? So this is definitely a mixed situation. Why? I mean, the broader structure is definitely bearish. Okay, been bearish for some time. There was a change, right? There was definitely a change there with that price action. And since that change, it has established a higher low. Okay, cool. So that is definitely a structural change. We can't argue with that. Now, as far as where it's going now, okay, so you have these higher lows. All right, it's not a bad try. I mean, as long as the market agrees with you. I take it that this is not going to follow the market exactly based on this price action. So to play this, obviously I'd be looking for a swing trade long. You do have a higher low situation. You do have some stability here. You have a pin bar earlier. As you can see, the first pin bar didn't really produce anything, but now it's starting to stabilize, right? So not a bad idea, pal. Not a bad idea. What's the risk and what's the reward? Well, 886 is your low. So I would put the risk around $8. Give it some room, right? $8. So this thing right now is at 932. So you're looking at like $1.25 of risk, something like that. And the goal would be to let this thing run at the halfway point is what? Let's see, 10.15. I mean, if this thing can you have to try to make at least over 1 to 1 on this. So if you're risking $1.50, you should be locking something in at $1.50 profit, right? So if you take out the high of this thing, so let's say you buy this thing at 950. So at 1075, right, which is where that would be one target, because you have to at least be justifying the risk that you took, right? That would be one target. And then you see if this thing how it does at the high, right? Can it take out the high would be what you'd be waiting for. If it fails at that high again, I would unload or at least take more than 50% of the position off the table at that point. Maybe let a little run to see if it just fakes everyone out. But that's where you want to reduce all of your risk at that point, okay, on something like that. If this thing doesn't work out, right, what can go wrong? Well, take out that $8 low, and this thing starts pushing back into this area here, which is 733. I don't think really, if you're getting long around now, I don't think there's any reason to hold it that low. You take your loss around that $8 and just be done with it, okay? Especially if the stock market has a significant pullback, which can, you know, play a role in such a move. All right, so that's OMP. Interesting stock. Thank you for bringing that one up. Definitely one for the radar. And okay, so really quick, let's take a look. Jocelyn is asking about Tesla. Yeah, I like the price action in Tesla. Let's take a look. Now, Tesla is obviously one of the few stocks that are probably driving this Nasdaq. And here's the thing. So we took a look at OMG. We took a look at, you know, a couple of these other ones that when they go vertical like this. Jumia looked like this at one point. Link looked like this at one point. Where do you think this thing's going? Do you think it's going to 3,000? Maybe you'll find videos on YouTube that will tell you that this thing's going to 3,000 by next week and all that other herd mentality stuff. But this is the herd mentality, right? I don't care how great the fundamentals are. Look, I like the company. I think you know, Elon is an amazing person for sure, and an amazing risk taker. But all that fundamental stuff aside, wouldn't be buying it here. Okay, so here's what I would be doing with it. I'd be looking for the next buying opportunity. And based on this price action right here, Jocelyn, yeah. Actually, the first inflection point, now I was actually talking about this with someone Michael, actually in the chat room yesterday. We were talking about this stock. And I said to him, I asked this question in the chat room. I said, hey, listen, everyone, where do you think the first inflection point on Tesla is? And the answer is 1700. Okay, why 1700? It's the old resistance. So I would anticipate a new support at 1700. That's a long ways from where we are right now. This thing's what, 2095, this today's high. So basically this thing's at 2100. So a 400 point pullback is really the first structural inflection point. That's the first reasonable place where I would consider taking a risk on this stock. Now, you have to keep something in mind. If we get the broader pullback and the stock market really gets hammered, and keep in mind, I'm not talking about a bear market. I'm talking about just a pullback. And it's very likely we see something like that as we go forward into the uncertainty coming over the next couple of months. We have the US election, and as we get closer to that, there's going to be a lot more and more uncertainty, and markets don't like uncertainty. So in that type of scenario, I would be expecting a consolidating market, and that consolidation will begin with a retrace. Now, the first and most common mistake is buying too early. So I would first wait for this location. Okay, Jocelyn, I would first wait for that. If we never get there, we never get there, and I don't take any risk, and it's that simple. I'm not gonna, you know, I'm gonna have to wait for some kind of better structure to form at some other point. But right now, based on this structure, I want to see that location, right? Now, secondly, I'd like to see some sort of stability develop at that location. Now, what could we get there? What's a possibility? One candle? No. We can see a formation like this. That's the type of consolidations you get. Okay, maybe it clears that location and develops this consolidation a little bit lower. And the consolidation won't look exactly like this, but you know, you'll get some kind of messy price action. And that's what I want to see. That's what I'm going to be evaluating, because from that messy price action, we can then measure risk. And once I can get a good sense of the risk, then I can measure my potential, and that's when I'd be open to the trade. So right now, again, we can't do anything until it gives us a better location. So either at 1700, if that level is cleared, which is possible, then we can see like this 1300 area. That's the next inflection point after that. All right. So those are the 2 points that I have on the radar right now. We'll see what the market, what the market delivers. But at this point, I wouldn't touch this. People that get caught up in this stuff are just, they're just not aware of, the risk. And another deceptive thing that, right, DJ, I was going to mention Robinhood, but a lot of people, they get annoyed when I mention Robinhood because I think, they have a Robinhood account and they think I'm talking about them. But no, it's not that I'm saying Robinhood traders are unintelligent traders. It's just that they tend to be, since they're not professional, the majority of them tend to be reactive. And that is the herd, reactive traders, which has nothing to do with intelligence. Now, so what I was going to say too is the market can be very deceptive, especially for someone who's new, because let's say you bought this thing here, right, on this high of 1845, and you're like, well, look, it's 2100. I made money. This is easy. Well, that's a random reward, and that's very deceptive because the market will randomly reward you for ineffective behaviors. If you keep doing stuff like that, you're going to get caught, and any money that you make in this type of situation, you're going to give back very quickly. And then you're going to become very confused, and you're going to lose confidence because you'll be like, well, I thought all I had to do was buy something and it just went higher. But the market doesn't work that way. Oh, then that's when you realize that there's a very long learning curve, and it takes a while to understand how to time these things. And it's not about charts. It's really about understanding the market psychology relative to your own. This is a psychological game. Charts are a very small fraction of this game. Everyone thinks it's all on the charts, but charts are just the starting point. Okay? And the other thing is, the less on your chart, the better. I see these crazy charts with all kinds of oscillators and all kinds of crazy things, and those are the charts that everyone wants to see because they think they're learning something. But there's the more stuff on your chart, the less clarity you will be able to get from it, if that makes sense. Markets are counterintuitive. Everything that's relative to the market is counterintuitive. That's why human nature does not help us in these situations. We must do things to resist human nature. All right? And that's really what makes the market so hard, human nature. And it's also the same thing that creates opportunities if you understand how human nature behaves in this type of environment. That's the herd mentality. Okay, anyway, well, I talked about a lot of stuff today. So everyone, I think I got everyone's questions now. Thank you, Pau, and thank you, Jocelyn, for those symbols. I always want to make sure I get to everyone's symbols. I want to thank you all for watching. I'm going to wrap this up now because now I've definitely been talking way too long. Okay, way too long here. Yeah. So again, if you're new to Greenbridge, just make sure you check out our. Hey, Shashank, how are you? If you're new to Greenbridge, make sure you check out our website at greenbridgeinvesting.com. We do have a swing trade signal service where we send out a text and an email. Remember, it's swing trades, which means, if we send out 2 or 3 in a week across all of the markets that we follow, that's a lot. People come to us and they think that we're sending out day trades. Shay, okay, you know what, Shay Shank? All right, for you. You know why I'm going to do this? I was just going to wrap this up. But you know why? Shay Shank comes to all of these. And not only that, but Shay Shank is like in India, and it's like, I know, 3 a.m. over there. Poor guy should be sleeping. It's Friday. So I'll do this for you, Shay Shank, because of that. Okay? Try to help out my people here. All right, so let me see. I typed in the symbol. What's the ticker for that one? I don't know the ticker. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh, okay, got it. Oh, I typed it in. Oh, so no, we want it against the USD, right? Okay. And so this is on Bittrex. Wow, I don't have a very good, hold on. Let me get a better chart here. Let me see who has a better chart. Can I see, does Coinbase have one? No, how about Binance? Okay, so against USDT, they should have a pretty decent chart. All right, so let's see what we got here. Yeah, that's a good chart. All right, so this is one of those, this is one of those altcoins that I'm not a big fan of because usually they just they're driven on hype. Yeah, look at that. Look at these vertical. I don't like these vertical type of moves. Hey, unless you're in it from a low price and you get a vertical move, I hope you sell into those. But anyway, so just looking at the chart, let's just kind of zoom out a bit here, right? I see nothing but basically range bound situation, inflection points, right? Going back, look, a year. I mean, obviously, what is that? 0.004. It's not even a penny. Why Elon Musk saying about, okay. See, DJ, sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I don't follow Elon Musk on Twitter, so I don't know what they say. But, you know, a lot of times someone like him understands the effect that they have on a market. So they can say stuff, and it's perfectly legal in these coins, because these coins are not, what do you call it? They're not regulated, right? There's no NFA, there's no SEC that cover these coins, right? It's out of their jurisdiction, which means a guy like him can come out and he can say whatever he wants. He can hype the coin, and of course he's probably in from a very low price or whatever, and he'll dump it on everyone. He can very easily do that, and it's perfectly legal because there's no regulator to say, hey, you can't do that. You can't do that in the stock market, and you can't do that, you know, anywhere else, but you can do it here in these things. So, you know, penny stocks too are notorious for this type of situation. So technically, I don't like this situation. There's no clear-cut trend here, except you have these price spikes, which again is probably hype. And if I was even going to apply anything technical, you probably you have this consolidation right now at the moment. You have this consolidation in here, and this is noisy. Since this is all hype-driven, if I was going to take any chance on something like this, I would at least wait for an extreme low price, right? Which means you should probably wait for something like 0.0285, okay, or somewhere in those lows, if anything, because your risk at least is lower at those points compared to buying it in the middle or especially a high. Because remember, hype is driving these things. There's really no sound, you know, this thing obviously doesn't have very good fundamentals or whatever. It doesn't look like Cardano. It doesn't look like Link. It doesn't look like, you know, you want a winner, go for one of those. Even OmiseGO is better than this thing. Even XRP is better than this thing, right? So you want to find a chart that has a nice clear structure. This structure is kind of all over the place. But if anything, if you're going to do something with it, look for the lows, right? Look for those extreme points, because that's when people are banging it out. And that's when you can capitalize on that fear from the herd mentality and at least get somewhat of a better price. Okay, now can it go to zero? Sure. But, you know, I'd wait for some sort of stability in a situation like that. And basically what you're doing is you're playing the range. Or that's how I'd look at something like this. Okay. So again, yeah, that's against the USDT there. I just did that. The levels are going to be the same even if it's for the US dollar. Okay. All right, so I think I got everyone's questions there. All right, let me see. Sotri, hey man, if you have time, could you check TKWY? I have been in that stock since 31.25. Feels kind of, all right. Well, I gotta go, man. All right, real quick. I'm gonna spend 1 minute on this, and then I'm gonna wrap this up. Okay, been here an hour. Where have you been? No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's see, real quick. So you feel that it's near the top. No problem, Shashank. You know, thanks for your loyalty and always showing up to these things. When no one else shows up, Shashank shows up. And DJ. So, and Pal. Okay. Yeah, so you feel that this thing is near a top. Well, yeah, you do have this resistance area up here at this $100, obviously whole number, inflection point area. With the position of the stock market where it is, I'm not familiar with this company. Obviously, it's a European company, so I guess it's in euros, I would imagine. Yeah, so 100 euros. If anything, you should be reducing risk here. Okay, if you're in the position, you should be taking some off the table. If you want to give it a chance, because the structure is bullish, but you're dealing with a global market because, you know, the DAX is also been in a pretty weak position, vulnerable position. If we get that global pullback, this thing, you're probably going to see lower prices. It's likely off of this level. So if anything, you should be partialing out, you know, maybe you take 50% off or something like that. Just something to where at least you lock something in, but be prepared for the pullback. You know, if you see that pullback, if you're not comfortable with this thing pulling back, then take more off the table. You know, you have to decide that. Maybe take 75% off, you know, but that's something only you can decide. But as far as, yeah, this thing is near a resistance and in a place to be partialing out. And like I said, maybe you give some a chance to try to break out if you get one more leg higher, but it's tough. It's a tough call because of the position of the general stock market, right? That S&P pulls back. It's, you know, you're going to see the DAX pull back, and this thing will likely be sensitive to that, all right? Since it's a European company here. Okay, so all right, so that's it. That's where I'm going to leave you with that. All right, everyone. Hey, no problem. Thank you, everyone, for your great questions. Thank you for your great participation. If you liked the video, please give me a like. I work hard here to try to make this experience good for you. If there's anything I can do better, hey, please let me know, because I always want to make it better for you. All right, so thank you all again. Enjoy your Friday, and I'll see you all next week in the chat room. All right, have a great day, everyone. I'll talk to you then.